What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 6 of the West Coast Champs Roundtable. As you can see, Gordon is taking a much-needed vacation this week, but I got two guests alongside with me. As you guys remember, Hunter is back, and a new guest, Aidan, is with us today. He is a very, very, very big Patriot Tom Brady fan and also is a hockey player as well. What is up with you guys? How are you feeling today?
Just happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back and had a lot of fun last time and hoping to continue that this episode.
Great, and we are happy to have you guys back. So let's start off with probably the biggest news of the week, and it kind of spans across two sports, but we'll start with the MLB. I mean, it seems to be we are never going to have baseball, and they are just going to go back and forth along with how the NBA was going there for a while. Do you guys think that we are going to have baseball this year?
I think at some point we will. It's just a matter of time, and obviously stuff like this, it's not precedented at times. Like no one has ever seen a situation like this before. So dealing with 32 teams and having that many players on each team, it's going to take a lot to sort of come to an agreement. But yeah, I definitely think at some point there will be an MLB season. It's just a matter of time because at times like this, we're all kind of adjusting to these certain stipulations and stuff like that, and dealing with that many players and salaries and games and everything that's going on in the world. That it's going to take some time. So I think at some point, yeah, we will be seeing the season.
Definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I think there will be a season, but it's just a matter of money between the two parties and however many games they want to play, and locations and a lot of logistics to figure out the pandemic and stuff like that.
Right. And I mean, I think like you guys said, it's a matter of time, and the players and the owners seem to be so far apart, and so hopefully here in the next week or two they find some middle ground and just kind of give way so that they can give us some baseball and allow themselves to go play. A league that has finally set a date and then changed it is the NBA. Interesting concept here, and you guys can kind of answer this for NHL also and the NFL, is after agreeing to a settlement in regards to coming back and playing and figuring out the tournament style, the players are now coming out asking for insurance to deal with injuries that they've sustained, mainly regarding coronavirus because of the bubble and that they're at very high risk, which we all know that they are, even with the strict guidelines that they'll be. Do you think that the league owes it to the players to give them that extra care in regards to what's going on in the world right now?
Yeah, I think they do, because NBA was one of the first for players to test positive, so they give them some insurance. It allows the players to have sort of safety net if they were to get injured or infected during Corona.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think, basketball player, I mean, if you play a sport right now, you're obviously putting yourself at risk. So I think, the least you can have is an insurance, especially from leagues like that. Obviously they're not low on money and they have money to, use. So I think if you're going to want someone to do something where they risk, their health and or other people's health, I think an insurance agreement should be done. Because like Aidan said, they were the first sort of cases that happened around the NBA and stuff like that. So it's definitely a possibility to happen again. And I think, there's a little bit of worry there. So I think they just want a little bit, like you said, insurance. So yeah, I think that definitely would be fair to have.
Would you guys see if the NBA does come out and say, that was not in the agreement, we're not going to give it to you? Obviously, you can get treatment from your team, and obviously a lot of these guys who are going to be there have money because they're on the better teams. But do you think then we'll really start to see if players start to pull out and say that they are not going to play regardless of their agreement beforehand?
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. Because, like the league itself and the executives and all that, they're not the ones out there playing. They're just sitting behind watching. So, and the players are the one out there, going out there and risking their health, like I said. So I think I could definitely see that happening.
And do you think that the guidelines that are put in, because they're calling it the bubble, so these players aren't going to be able to leave. They're probably going to have a lot of room between them, especially between the different teams and whatnot. I'm not 100% sure whether or not they're allowing family, and I don't think they are. I think it's a certain amount of guests, though. Do you think that they're good enough, or do you think that's kind of why the players are worried, is they don't see that as something that's good enough?
Well, I mean, I think with players with families, it's going to be tough if they have to be separated for a pretty long time, I'm assuming, if they reach the finals.
Right.
So I think there will be some pushback with the guidelines in terms of maybe letting some of the families in, stay with them. But, again, we'll see where coronavirus goes and how the government's guidelines may affect the whole sports situation.
Right. And I mean, lucky for us, they seem to have picked a destination that rules are somewhat lenient in Florida. So I think as long as they continue in this direction, that we could see basketball here right on time and ready to go. And I know that Hunter and I are excited to see our teams try and win the championship this year.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's move on to some more positive news. I mean, the NFL seems to be on track. I know this is a league that both of you love and take pride in. And I was talking yesterday with some people, and they seem to think that NFL teams are going to have fans at some sort of capacity, which is going to be great. It gives the players a reason to go back and the owners to allow football to happen. So how you guys feeling about your teams, Aidan? I know Tom Brady was a big hit this year, and Hunter, you got a rejuvenated Charger team. So what are you guys looking forward to this year?
I think there's not much to be hopeful about for the Patriots. I think, we'll see how Brady and Belichick do separate it. I think that'll be the most interesting part, whether, Tampa Bay goes to the playoffs and makes a run, or New England ends up with the first pick. Like, I think it's that dynamic between two of arguably the greatest in the game.
So would you be happy with a tank for Trevor?
I know
it's kind of a bittersweet question.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's saying Trevor's the next great one, so you get him. Wouldn't mind that.
Hunter, how about you? I know you're a huge Charger fan, big draft pick in Herbert, some good offseason moves. They filled that linebacker position, and really the AFC West has seemingly now become a division to beat here in the AFC. And with Tom moving to the NFC, I mean, it's looking good for the Chargers.
Yeah, I think the Chargers are one of the most slept-on teams in the league. I think both offensively and defensively, we're one of the most talented teams in the league. Like, you look at us on defense, the D-line, the linebackers, and the safeties and secondary, I think, are second to none. I think our secondary is going to be something to fear this year. I was hoping that the only thing I would have maybe done differently was draft Simmons at 6 and then maybe sign Newton, but I was happy that we drafted Herbert for the quarterback of the future and then trading out to get Murray. I thought that was a really good play by them. But yeah, I think the AFC West though is going to be tough. But I would definitely put our roster up against Denver any day, and I would probably take ours. But Chiefs, are going to be powerhouse still. But yeah, I think there's a lot to like about the Chargers. I think even Tyrod coming in, he had a winning record playing for the Bills and Browns when they were both in rebuilding. So, and I think he managed the ball a lot better than Philip Rivers did as well. So, I think next year is looking bright. So I got nothing but good things to say.
Definitely, and I think people don't really think about this is signing a guy like Brian Bulaga and bringing a guy in like Chris Harris. That leadership that seemingly was left when Philip Rivers left the team is still there, and I think they they've gotten rid of a few guys that I think seemed to be the problems, even with their talent with Melvin Gordon, but they got Austin Eckler. I don't see them having an issue there. So with the changing of the guards in the divisions, I mean, the AFC East seems to be very weak now. The AFC West is now shooting up with the Broncos and Oakland also having good off seasons. What's your favorite division to watch this year? And in a previous video, Gordon and I talked about how we think that the NFC South is just going to be fun to have the Bucs and the Saints. But really, I mean, there's a lot of divisions this year. I mean, the NFC West, the NFC South, the AFC West, the AFC North. I mean, there's a lot of divisions this year that I think are going to fill the playoffs, and some of these other divisions besides those division winners are not going to get a lot of teams out.
Yeah, I think obviously NFC South's a great division to watch. You got 3 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league to watch, and a Tom Brady that's really fueled right now and really driven to show people that he doesn't need Belichick to, win. And Drew Brees that has a roster around him that is up there with the best. But I also think the AFC North is a really good division to watch. It's a lot of hard-nosed football. The Ravens are there, the Browns, the Steelers, and then Joe Burrow coming in. So I think with those divisions, there's a lot of things to watch and a lot of exciting things to come.
I picked the AFC West. You see Chargers getting a QB of the future. Oakland or Las Vegas now making the move. I think that'll rejuvenate the team a little bit with John Gruden at coaching that. And then you see Denver reloading up on offense with KJ Hamler, Cortland Sutton, and then a few good tight ends. So I think AFC West will be very interesting. And then you got, of course, Kansas City in there too.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to be a fun year here in the NFL. And going back to what you said, you're talking about Cam Hunter. We still have a lot of free agents, big money free agents. I mean, I'm talking Cam Newton, Jadeveon Clowney, and really Antonio Brown, a guy whose name was brought up by Russell Wilson recently. I mean, you think these teams are going to wait till maybe around camp to start really trying to go after these guys? I mean, have you guys seen or heard anything in regards to where you think they might go? I mean, we're in such a toss-up, and I think the pandemic has kind of thrown a little bit of a wrench into what a normal free agency would be. But we got some big names out there.
Yeah, I think I'm just very mind-boggled how Cam Newton's not signed. An athlete like that who won MVP and went to a Super Bowl not too long ago, who's apparently healthy now. I feel like there's something in the works there with him and the Patriots. I feel like that's a Belichick kind of thing to wait it out.
That'd be crazy.
Do moves like that sort of everyone knows is a big surprise, because I think Belichick, is probably having a lot of talks to him. So I think Cam Newton to the Patriots will be something that may happen. But I heard Clowney and the Titans have had talks, and Clowney the Seahawks, Clowney the Eagles. So it's just crazy how this pandemic has taken these players who are elite and sort of slowed down their contract process.
Clowney and Newton, I think, are interesting, though, because Clowney is one of those guys that probably is going to get the most money here in the offseason, because his free agency has nothing to do with his personality or his issues on and off the field. I think you're going to see Cam maybe get a really short contract to try and prove himself and then get a big one maybe next year or the year after. But, I mean, as Aidan probably knows, I think Bill's going to pull something out of the hat here. I really don't think
I think, like Hunter said, it's kind of Bill to wait last minute and then surprise the league so they're not prepared for it. I think you look at a situation last year with Ryan Tannehill, I think something similar might happen with Cam Newton. He signs a short contract and then has to prove himself. And again, he's young, healthy, and he's still a great QB, so I don't see why not. Can't make an impact.
And the league's always evolving, and like the quarterback position now, like if you're not a dual threat, you're kind of have less to offer, and they always said Bill's ahead of the curve, so I think he's looking for that dual threat quarterback.
Right. I totally agree with both of those. And one quick last question before we move on to talk about the NHL. What rookie do you guys think will make the most impact this year? I mean, I know everybody wants to go quarterback right away and say Tua and Joe Burrow, but I don't know. That first round, I think a guy like Isaiah Simmons or someone like that who could just really control the ball. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think Simmons could have a big impact, and I also think guys like Ruggs and Judy could have a big impact. I think Denver hasn't really had that wide receiver one. Like Sutton's really good, but I think Judy kind of makes that offense a lot more dynamic, and you can't just focus on Sutton now. You got to focus on Judy, and I think a guy like Ruggs with his speed can sort of add something to Vegas that, they don't really have that big wide receiver one who can torch you down the field. So I think those two guys might not show them their numbers, but I think it could really change their offense.
Right.
I look at a guy like Jefferson with Minnesota with Diggs gone, and you have Thielen.
My Eagles were supposed to draft. It was right there.
Rigor.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got not a bad QB in Kirk Cousins, and Jefferson, speedy, maybe won't put up the numbers, but allow opportunities for Thielen to get open.
I think the one big thing to take away from this draft was the wide receivers in this draft could be the next ranking of wide receivers here in the NFL. So let's move on. Both of you guys play hockey, and I know we're about to get hockey back here with this new playoff format, and Hunter and I were talking about this the other day. It's going to be exciting. I mean, you got play-in games, and then you got teams playing for seeding. I mean, we're going to have a lot of hockey here and finally get some sports back, whether or not there's fans or not. It's going to be exciting to have a new playoff format.
Yeah, I think it's great that, they're making a lot of the strides, and it seems so far they haven't had too many bumps in the road. And I think the format reminds me a lot of youth hockey when I was playing when I was younger. It's a lot like you play for seeding, and then you go from there. And it's just kind of cool to see that come back. And I think it's gonna be super exciting because every game matters more than the next one. You know what I mean? So it's definitely cool that they gave so many teams a chance to get it. Unfortunately, none LA Kings didn't get a chance, and for that sake, not a single California team will be participating. But it's definitely gonna be exciting to watch.
It kind of gives that Olympic kind of World Cup vibe where, like you said, they're playing for seeding, and the lower seeds are trying to figure out their way in regards to the bye. And so I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think some of the teams that might not have made the playoffs without the pandemic could surprise people. And I think, like you guys said, that's what's all exciting about it, is the 24th seed could end up winning it all.
That's the interesting thing about, I think, all of these playoffs coming back, like NBA, NHL, and then even when baseball and football come back, is that something like this could cause realistically not the best team to win, because they could come back and the 1 seed could be super cold, the 24 seed could be super hot, and then all of a sudden you have a team that was sub 500 winning the Stanley Cup, But I mean, which is generally something that I don't like, but right now it's going to be exciting. We want anything sports, so I think no one's going to have an issue with that. My one question is, I know those top 4 seeds obviously are going to play for seeding. Do you think it's fair, though, that these teams have to start right away with playoffs and don't really have warm-ups?
I think
like even 2 games makes a difference of just kind of scrimmaging,
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be hard for the higher seeds. Obviously, they know they're in the playoffs, so I mean they can live with that, whatever they may land on. But the teams that are sort of playing to get in without having that warm up, you go in. Playoff hockey is not like anything else. It's you go full out, like it's war out there, and to go from 0 to 100 like that in a matter of that, it's going to be definitely challenging. But I think these athletes can turn the switch just like that. But I think it would definitely help everyone out to have a couple preseason games or exhibition games before playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to go right into playoffs cold without any warm-up games, like Hunter said, because playoff hockey's violent and it's, you sacrifice everything to try to win the cup. And without those warm-up games, I think you could see, maybe injuries piling up or something like that.
My first thought was injuries, because you could practice all you want, but if you're not in game shape, it's a new level of intensity there. And so who knows? I mean, I think it's going to be exciting, and really whoever wins at this point. I mean, we don't have allegiance really to anybody, so we just want to see hockey. And finally, before we say goodbye, we're going to play one last game, and today we're going to do a game that's called Start, Bench, and Cut. So I'm going to give the guys 3 NFL players. They got to pick whether they want to start them, bench them, or cut them. And these are all somewhat elite players, and I want you guys to think about these guys when they were in their primes, not where they ended up. Most of these guys are probably going to be Hall of Famers here and or already Hall of Famers. So they'll be interesting to see what you guys have to say. So starting off, we will go with QBs. The 3 quarterbacks are Tony Romo, Big Ben, and Phillip Rivers. So Aidan, we'll start with you. You got to start one, bench one, cut one.
I'll start Romo.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Bench Rivers and cut Ben, Big Ben.
So he's cutting the one dude that has a Super Bowl. Let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
Super Bowl winner. Hunter?
I feel like Romo was just a great QB when he. Romo was just a great QB.
Yeah, I mean, he had teams. He just never really won.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hunter, how about you?
I'm going to have to start Rivers, bench Big Ben, and cut Romo.
Yeah,
I think Rivers' numbers are better than all of them, and I don't think he ever had back when they were in San Diego, and I don't think he ever had the supporting cast that Big Ben had and the defense like the Steelers had. So and I think, Rivers is, when he's on his game, he's, he's just as good as anyone else is. And I put Big Ben as a bench because, he won a Super Bowl and he's shown that he can win games. And Romo, I think he had some really good teams and didn't really ever do too much of that. So I had to cut him.
Interesting. It's interesting to me that no one was starting the Super Bowl winner. So that's something to think about. All right. Second, we'll move to the running backs. So remember, all in their prime. So we got AP, Zeke, and Marshawn. Hunter, we'll start with you on this one.
I want to start Zeke real bad because I think, but I'm going to have to start AP here, bench Zeke, and cut Marshawn.
And Aidan?
I'd have to go to Sam. I think AP's just above both of them.
He was just one of those guys when before he had those injuries, and I mean even that one season after when he came back from that I think it was his ACL, he came back, and I mean when he's in his prime, I mean there's no stopping him. Even now he's still putting up numbers on a team in Washington that has nothing. So I mean I think that says something. And we all know Zeke's a freak, and Marshawn, who really knows what is going to show up on that day. And lastly, we'll move to wide receivers. This one I think might be the hardest one. We're going to go with Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, and Megatron. I mean, arguably 3 of the top 5 receivers of all time, possibly, depending on who you think is the best. And Aidan, we will start with you.
I'm going to start Rice, bench Moss, and cut Megatron.
Ooh, okay, interesting. And Hunter?
So I think Calvin Johnson is the best receiver to ever play the game. I think if he wasn't on the lines, he would probably have numbers like no one else. But I have to start Calvin Johnson. And I could never really watch Jerry Rice play, so I'm gonna have to cut Jerry Rice and then bench Randy Moss.
Yeah, that's one that's just like really no matter what you do, you're kind of gonna get shot in the foot by cutting one of them from someone. Megatron, I mean, really, he probably should still be playing, which is the interesting part. He bowed out on his own terms ahead of time, and so that's an interesting one. I mean, all good takes from you guys on all three scenarios. All right, and that wraps up this week's episode. Next week, Gordon will be back, but filling in for him, Aidan and Hunter did a great job, and we want to thank you guys for joining us today. Did you guys have a good time?
Yeah, great time. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate your guys' support and takes here on the channel, and look for some NFL videos. Hopefully this week we want to give some prediction videos, and next week's Roundtable will be as scheduled. So we will see you all then, and have a good one, everybody.